Hello, good morning. Just want to make sure that you can hear me. I know that there's three people in the chat. If you can hear me, can you just chat and let me know that you can hear me? There's no one there. I'm gonna assume that you can. Oh, thank you, Jane. All right, awesome. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the best. We will get started. This will be recorded. My name is Sarah Tugender. I am a national field manager with nutraMetrix, and my goal is to have you have your most effective and efficient year yet with nutraMetrix. Been working in the field for about 10 years, and I also have some great corporate sales experience. So I want to come to you with info that will help you with both. One of the questions that I get from a lot of people is how to get past the gatekeeper. Seems like we have the enthusiasm. We're willing to make the calls, but we just get a little bit stuck at that first phone call, that first introduction. It does not need to be that complicated. And I think that we're sometimes in our head a little bit about this. And so I have some great tips that have helped me, that's helped some folks that I've worked with. And now that I'm working more with you, I'm able to see some commonalities that are going on in the field and some easy ways that we can fix this. Since I've started with nutraMetrix, I was 19 years old when I was introduced to the division. I really started picking up a little bit more into my mid 20s. And I found that I wanted to be a highly networked person. And what I mean by that is I wanted to fill up my Rolodex. And every time that I meet someone that you're calling a gatekeeper, I just found that it was an opportunity for me to be a friend making machine. That's something I don't know if you know about me, but I'm actually from the same hometown as Elizabeth Weber. And I did not know her until a few years into the business, but she has become a really great and dear friend of mine. And I find that working with nutraMetrix, it is so important to go to the big events because you're going to learn these skills that can be translated over all of the different divisions. You might be sitting there and pick up something from Sarah Rose Stack talking about web centers. You might hear something from Fat Joe talking about what he's doing with urban development. And you might make a connection to say, wow, that just clicked for me, and I can translate those same skills into what I'm doing about nutraMetrix. And I've always learned from Elizabeth Weber, and she really hammers home that she makes friends everywhere. And that what she started, she built this business with no one that she knew. And when you're working with nutraMetrix and you're saying, I'm having a hard time getting past the gatekeepers, it's just because you're not going out there and taking it and saying, how can I make friends today? How can I increase my network? How can I continue to add to my Rolodex? And that's what you need to do. So I would listen to some of her audios and get that language and enthusiasm down that Elizabeth has taught a lot of us. One of the other problems I find is that you're going to networking events, you're walking into offices, you're meeting folks who are also in the health and wellness industry, and you're doing all this work, but you're not translating it into result producing activity. You're not making those connections. So if I'm at an event with my daughter Ella, who's 2 years old, if we are somewhere and I meet another mom and she says to me that she's a licensed massage therapist, if I then don't take it the next step further and I don't say, I'd like to get your contact information, I'd really like to talk to you because I'd like to see if we could maybe network together and blend maybe what you do with what I do. And if you're not making those solid connections, you're wasting your time. And I want to help you define that. So, with the folks that I work with, When I tell them about connections and when we're tracking the connections that we're making, there's going to be three results. One is you're either going to score an appointment. So, whether this is with an health professional or a potential nutraMetrix consultant to work with you, you want to work towards continuing that conversation, continuing to climb the steps of the ladder, like J.R. Ridinger talks about. And you are going to want to move forward with them in some way. So, whether you're booking a discovery meeting with a health professional, whether you're booking an overview or an initial conversation with a potential nutrimetrics consultant, you want to move forward in booking those appointments. Or you want to, on the other side, hear a no, a flat out no. And at least then you can get them off of your right now possibility list. That's okay. You're going to hear more no's than yeses. That's just what's going to happen. It's the 80-20 rule. That's science. It's facts. It's called Pareto's principle. You can look it up. That's the way it's going to go. So if you go through your day knowing that it's going to be a yes, it's going to be a no, or it might be a not right now. It might be I'd love to book with you, but next week I'm going on vacation. I can't think of anything until I get back. Call me when you get back. Okay, that wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no, but you have to do something to follow up. So everyone you talk to should go into one of those three categories. If you're not having those sort of conversations, you're not making connections. So you have to keep driving towards that. Sometimes I find people get a little wishy-washy, especially in their language. Oh, I was wondering if you might be interested in talking about this further with me. Well, what's the answer to that question? It's not, can we talk further about this? It's, you're asking them, would you maybe be interested? Well, I don't know, interested in what? So I don't like to leave that in that wishy-washy state. I like to ask direct questions that result in a no, a yes, or a follow back up with me. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you guys. And so I hope you keep driving towards those connections. And I really think if you have about 18 connections, you will result in partnering with 2 new accounts. Those are the general metrics that I find has been working with my business. People always like to know the metrics. It might be a little different for you, but that's what I've been finding. So what are we doing to get past these gatekeepers of these accounts? I think there's the 3 R's of making friends, which is getting past the gatekeeper. I think it's interchangeable. So the first R that I have for you is research. Have to do your homework. It is so worth it. You can't rush through this. I'd rather have you spend 3 times the amount of time doing your research than you are spending on the phone. It's going to make a huge difference. So what do I mean by research? So you're calling an account. Let's say that you've identified a chiropractor in your area and you'd like to make the call to see if you can get into this chiropractor's office. This is going to be the same whether it's a cold call, you have no relationship with them, you just drove by, you know that they're there, and you've identified them as a target on your possibility list. It might also be a warm referral. Someone said to you, I have a personal relationship with Dr. Smith, who's the chiropractor on Main Street, and that would be really appropriate for you to give a call. You still have to call, and you have to say something so they know that you're not trying to book a chiropractic visit. Okay, you want to be able to say enough so they know exactly what you're calling about. So when I research, I'm going to look at their website. I'm going to look to see what social media they have, if they have a Facebook, and I'll often do a quick Yelp search. You're more likely to find your complementary and alternative health professionals, your chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, those allied health professionals are more likely to have your Yelp reviews than your traditional medical doctors. I don't typically go in for my yearly exam and then write a Yelp review. More and more dentists I'm finding are also on Yelp. And why do I do this? Well, I do this because I'll read through a couple of the reviews because I might find out um, someone will leave a review. Susan, she's the front desk personnel. And Susan, she always hooks me up with an appointment that is the last one of the day so I can make it from my workplace to go see Dr. Smith. Susan's the best. She's so accommodating. Okay. So now when Susan picks up the phone, I already know something about Susan. I know she really cares about her patients. I know that she's really accommodating. So I'm sort of expecting the potential of a Susan answering the phone. Sometimes if I go on the website, I can see the whole staff. I have a visual. I know exactly who I'm talking to. And that always helps me. Like even when I'm speaking to you guys here, there's no one on the other side of this camera. Just like when you're on the phone, there's no one right there in front of you. But it helps to me. Now I already know Jane had texted in the chat. I know that Jane is on the other side of that camera. I know you're there, Jane. It's a lot easier for me to visualize and talk to someone. So if you can get on their website, if you can get on their Facebook, if you can do that research, if you can have that right there, it just makes it a little bit easier. Let me just make sure I'm good. Oh, yes, Jane, thank you for answering. Definitely smile. You need to smile. That's really, really important when you are on the phone. All right, my second R here is to remember. I have a 2-year-old. I always say, I think that at the time that Ella came into this world, half of my brain left this world. And I don't know if you guys have kids, you feel the same way. But I have to write everything down. That's how I have to remember. So I have extensive notes. I like to use the pre-call form that we have from the practice planning guide, and I keep all of my notes in one place on one practice. And so if I am calling up or if I'm walking into a place, and again, Susan, I met her at the front. I see that Susan on her desk has a picture of her Maltipoo. Well, my family has Maltipoos, so I'll write that down because we have something in common together. There's someone else I'm trying to book an appointment with, and we talked a little bit about what she likes to do for fun. And so I wrote that down because I want to make friends. I want to have something in common with the people that I'm speaking with. So it's always great too to talk about in the FORM method. So do you guys know FORM? It's an acronym: family, occupation, recreation, and money. If I can touch upon one or two of those and I can make a connection, I can find out I have a 2-year-old, they have a 2-year-old. I can find out is this their only job, or are they here part time? Do they have another job? Do they like to ski? I like to ski. If we can find something in common, it goes back to me having an easier time of making a new friend. Finding something we have common ground with. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are also actively dating or remember when you were dating and who you were attracted to and who you weren't. And it typically was people that you had common interests with. I met my husband because we both had a love for BU hockey. That was how we became really close. We went to all of the Boston University hockey games together. And when I found out that he liked BU hockey and he found out I liked BU hockey, well, we became friends. And so I'm not saying you're going to go out and date your gatekeepers and your decision makers, but make some friends. Find out what's in common. It's going to make the relationship solidify in a much shorter period of time. It's going to make it a lot easier. So when you're calling up for future appointments, you have something already in common that you can talk about. And the third R is to recite. Okay, what does that mean? I was just trying to fit everything into 3 R's, but really it's practice. Recite what you're about to say over and over and over again. Do it with your friends. Find someone on the NC support group, Facebook group to partner and buddy up with, and you can practice this together. Practice what you're going to do when they pick up the phone. What are you going to say? Practice what you're going to do when you leave a voicemail. Practice your 30-second commercial of what you're going to say at a networking event. practice every aspect. Practice if they say yes, if they say no, if they say not right now. Practice the follow up. Just keep practicing. Keep working out scripts. I do this in the car when I'm driving. I'll practice with my daughter. I'll set up her stuffed animals and pretend like this is an office I'm walking into, and what am I going to say? And this helps it so it will roll off my tongue so much easier when I'm making these calls, when I'm working with these gatekeepers to work with the practices to potentially partner with nutraMetrix. The other thing, my tip is when you do get someone on the phone, if they say, "Hi, this is Susan from Dr. Smith's Family Chiropractic," I'll typically say their name first before mine. I'll say, "Hi, Susan." This helps it like we're friends, because if I called my friend and I was calling Katie and Katie picked up the phone, I would say, "Hey, Katie, it's Sarah." I wouldn't say, "Hi, it's Sarah." I usually will say their name first. So it just sort of establishes that relationship right there. And so practice doing that. It also helps you remember their name. And then if they don't say their name, it's a great way to then say, "Oh, who am I speaking with?" At some point in the conversation. All right, I'm going to throw a little curveball your way, because sometimes you're not going to get a gatekeeper. You're actually going to get the practitioner on the phone. So I don't want you to be surprised when this happens. I want you to be really prepared. I was at an office the other day, and the phone kept ringing, and the health professional kept saying, I'm so sorry I have to get this. I'm flying solo for a couple hours." You have no idea if you're calling, who's going to answer the phone, who's at the office, which goes back to my research. Because if you go and you see that, all right, I'm calling an acupuncturist, and it looks like that's it. This particular acupuncturist is the only one. There is no staff. If you're looking at a website, you're looking at a Facebook page, you're not seeing other staff members, be prepared that the acupuncturist is going to answer his own phone most of the time. Or you might get a voicemail if it's during practicing hours. So you should just know and be a little bit prepared. There's been so many times that it's not actually the gatekeeper that's calling. And you don't know when you're actually getting a decision maker who's not necessarily the practitioner. I've worked with a lot of health professionals who it's a family run business. It's the wife that's picking up the phone. It's the daughter, it's a sister, but it's someone else that's part of the process that you need to work with to partner with this health professional. You just need to be prepared. You always need to be professional. You need to remember who you're speaking with, and that makes it a lot easier. The other thing, don't take it personally if someone's giving you a little bit of a runaround. If they're saying, "I'll call you back later. I can't book this right now." I have to say, for me personally, I probably right now have about 3 friends that are trying to track me down for play dates. And I've canceled on them. I haven't called them back. I've oh gosh, a whole list of people that I want to see, I want to get together with, and I'm just having a hard time getting back to them. I had a friend who asked me for something for the 3rd time yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I meant to email that to you when I got that answer. Thank you so much for the reminder." And so I'm never feeling like I'm bugging if I'm following up, because I just know the way I am. You have to follow up with me a couple times to get on my schedule sometimes. I have a lot of things I'm juggling. I'm all over the place. And so if someone circles back with me, I'm so appreciative that they remembered. And so just don't give up. Don't take it personally. Think about a time when you've given a friend of yours or a family member or someone you're trying to do business with a little bit of a runaround and you're not really meaning to do it. The other thing that I want to say is don't be afraid to name drop. If you're already working with someone in the area, if you can give a testimonial, you're going to want to use that in your initial conversation when you're calling up these offices. Because you also want them to know that you're not calling about a medical appointment. So I might say, when Susan answers the phone, I might say, "Hey, Susan, how are you? I would really love to come in and do some networking with you guys, see what Dr. Smith is up to at Dr. Smith Family Chiropractic. I work down the street with Susie Q, the acupuncturist, and I'd love to come in and see your facility, see if we might be able to do some networking together, and introduce myself and shake Dr. Smith's hand. When's an appropriate time to swing by to do that? And so I name drop so that I'm working with someone else. I might compliment the practice. I've heard really great things. That goes back to those Yelp reviews. If this isn't a warm call necessarily from a friend, but have read a really great things, like Dr. Smithy takes the extra time with me as a patient. If I read a Yelp review that said he really listens and he offers a lot of extra services that my former chiropractor did not do, I might mention that. I've heard from a lot of people that Dr. Smith just is really impressive in the way he practices. I know a lot of people. I'm always thinking I'm highly networked. I've been working now for years on becoming highly networked in health and nutrition. So I go with such a heart-centered approach where I just want to help everyone, because I think in this industry, in health and wellness, and we need to just keep helping one another to keep this mission going, and to find people that are on this mission with us to save some time, to make more money, to save money, and to have better patient outcomes. And that's what I'm looking for. And that's what I'm always talking about as themes, and whoever wants to help me on this journey. And I'm always looking to meet new practitioners, and that's what they're looking to do. If I can put people in touch with one another, if I can be really helpful right off the bat, that's what I want to do. When you call, I like to call when I have a finite amount of time. So if I have to go and I have to pick up my daughter at 2 o'clock, I might get on the phone at 1:55. I might pull into the parking lot a couple minutes early, make a call at 1:55, because my back's up against the wall. I'm not going to have a long, drawn-out conversation. Do this also, especially when I'm talking to potential nutraMetrix consultants. And I do this as well because then I can say to them, hey, Randy, I really wanted to connect with you on something. I only have a couple minutes. I have to jump into my daughter's school at 2 o'clock to go pick her up. When is a great time that we can have a conversation? There's something specific that I'd like to talk to you about with the business that I'm running. And so they know we're going to have a business conversation, and I book the appointment right there. And so that has helped me a lot. I find when I sit down, I give myself 2 hours to call. I'll sometimes procrastinate for the first half of that time that I've blocked out. But whenever I have just small little chunks of time, I always make the call and I get that done. This just works for me, book a lot more appointments. The other thing too about leaving messages, same principle, make sure that you make it clear that you want to talk shop, you want to talk about business. And if you are leaving a phone number, leave it twice. Some of us tend to, garble our words a little bit, talk a little bit fast. You know the way technology is. So always leave your phone number. Do that twice. And just make friends. Just have a good time. You will love working within this industry. You will have so much fun. And I hope that this has worked for you. So leave me some feedback in the Facebook group. Again, I'm Sarah Tugender, nutraMetrix National Field Manager, helping you make this your most efficient and effective year with nutraMetrix. I'm going to stay on. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. I just do that for the recording. So let me see, because I don't like to look down. Oh, that's cool. You had an Uber client last night. All right, so I have Francis here. Jane, thank you so much, first of all. I have really great lighting today, so that's always helpful. So Francis, that's great. So you've been practicing all week, and yet when you practice, it just will roll right off your tongue. It makes it so much easier. So that is one of my 3 principles, my 3 R's. Recite it, keep saying it, and you're going to have so much more success. So thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I'll stay on for a couple minutes. We have a little bit of a delay. I hope this helps. I don't tend to do a lot of cold calls, but I do find that even when I'm trying to call based on referrals, it sometimes gets lost in translation, especially when I'm calling offices. Sometimes they don't understand. They're like, I don't, do you want an appointment? What do you want? So if you're not actually practiced and you're not so direct with getting a no, a yes, or a later, you sound a little weird. And so you really have to practice that so you're so direct so they know you're not there for an annual exam. You're not calling to get your teeth cleaned. You're calling for something that's very specific. It will also help you figure out exactly who you would like to meet with. Sometimes they're like, I don't know, do you want the office manager? Do you want the doctor? Do you need a hygienist? Do you need a technician? Oh, what you would say. Yeah, it always sort of like follow a certain format. So I try to do where I'm saying, hi, Susan. This is Sarah, and I'm a consultant. I work with a national healthcare company with products and services with health professionals. Or I might say if I have a practitioner I'm working with or someone I know that's really successful in the area. I work with practitioners in the area. I've spent a lot of time working with um, Dr. Jones down the street, and I've heard really great things about your practice. And I've heard that you guys are one of the few practices that takes a lot of extra time with practices, with patients. That sounds really similar to Dr. Jones. I would love to come in. I'd love to take an opportunity to be able to meet Dr. Smith, shake his hand, check out the facility, and see if there's a way we might be able to network with one another. And so they know it's a non medical appointment. Um, that's just what has been comfortable for me. It really depends for you guys how you're getting this referral, where it's coming from. If it is coming from a specific patient or person or practitioner, make sure that you say that. And I think that's really helpful. Thanks, Susanna. I'm glad that that answers your question. I'll stay until 11, a couple more minutes. I'm always willing to, if you guys have specific questions or scenarios. But I think what's really helpful is when you post those success stories in the NC Facebook support group. If there was something that worked for you, if you think that your enthusiasm has changed, if you have changed your script a little bit, if it was that extra bit of practice that you had that helped. I don't usually record these questions, so if anyone has anything else in particular or a particular scenario for you, I'm more than happy to help. I find my nutraMetrix consultants that I'm calling tend to be typically warm calls. So people that I've known, my friends, folks that I know personally that are working in the industry. And occasionally those health professional calls are really more the ones that are the cold calls or colder calls if I haven't met them directly. We've had I think we're going to talk about networking groups in the next couple weeks because I've had a lot of success meeting health professionals through networking groups. No, I don't lead with GeneSnip, and I'll tell you why. That's a really great question because that's really in phase 3 of implementation. And it I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver because if I sold them on an appointment with GeneSnip, it's not what I want to implement first and foremost into the practice. It's a little bit more complicated. I'd rather sell something very targeted that is going to directly impact their patient's primary and chief complaints. So when we go through and we do the discovery meeting and we're figuring out with the directed selling system what their chief complaint is and what we can offer the patients. And so I will just tell you, there was someone I was just answering today in the NC support group. They were asking me in particular that what is a great thing to recommend to practitioner She likes OPC3 and she wants something that's convenient for the patient. Should I talk about custom cocktails? No, because custom cocktails are also in phase 3. So first, we always want to help the chief patient complaint. The second thing is we'll add on to an additional patient complaint, and then we'll get more into customized health and nutrition. So whether it's TLS Select, TLS, gene snips, or custom cocktails. So with this particular practitioner, I said the first thing you should lead with in your proposal would be the daily essentials packet, because it answers her problem with convenience. You rip it off, you pour it in, you mix it with water. That's pretty convenient. And it has OPC3 as part of that formulation, which this practitioner really liked. I don't want to sell someone on an appointment and then say that they can't have that right away. I will sometimes, when I'm giving examples of what I do, I'll say products and services. They'll say, well, what do you mean by that? I will say, well, I offer everything from targeted nutritional and supplementation support, genetic screening, weight management. I don't specifically lead with the gene snip DNA analysis and detail on that. We used to do that back in the day, and we just found it was because that wasn't what we wanted to implement right away. So I'll sort of talk about it so everyone knows what I have in my bag, so to speak, what I could offer. But the way that implementation goes the best. I mean, I don't just want you to bring upon accounts. I want you to bring upon accounts that are going to do volume for you. And so the way that we now roll out and implement with nutraMetrix really helps you increase volume. I don't detail doctors. So that's a very rep thing to do. And so I'm not detailing anyone. So when I was a rep, what that means in the rep world, for anyone that doesn't know, is so I carry, I might carry, if I was a pharmaceutical rep, a medical device rep. Let me give you an example. I just met someone who's in medical device sales. He has 20 different lasers that he sells. And some of them he has bigger goals for than others in his compensation plan. So I'll always lead with the one that he has the biggest markup with. And so when he goes in, he's talking about the features and benefits of that particular laser. If you were in pharmaceutical sales, you would then talk about the features and benefits of whatever your product is. And so you have to detail a physician. That's what we talk about. So typically there's a sheet, there's information. You're going to go over that. You're going to talk about specific patient profiles. That's not how we sell here because it's a partnership. So I go through, and in the discovery meeting, that's where I'm gathering information. In the proposal, I'm spitting back out a customized proposed business plan, but we work on that together. So I might propose some products based on what we talked about with the discovery meeting, but it's up to the practitioners to really decide what they're going to offer their patients. At that time, I will help with providing the science and the information, but it's really more of a dialogue more so than a detail, because there's some aspects of each of our products that might interest or not interest the practitioner depending on their patient base. So I'm not going in and standing in the hallway, hey, Dr. Smith, if you have a minute, I just want to remind you that my pill has, lower ingredients than with the same efficacy as my competition. And so the next time that you see a patient that presents with this symptom, think of me. That's a detail. That's what's called detail. It's not what I'm doing because I'm not head-to-head selling against the competition. I'm talking about how I'm working with the practice to partner with them to help them create systems, better patient outcomes, additional streams of income. And I'll tell them how I'm going to work hand in hand, side by side with them and their staff in order to get this rolled out. So it's a much different conversation. So I was finding a lot of people were trying the gene snip DNA analysis as a detail, or OPC3 as a product detail. And that's not really what we want. That's not going to help you effectively build your business and your book of business. I would take quality accounts over the quantity of accounts. Oh, I always say if the doctor asks me how I get paid, I respond, it's a really great system. There's no money exchange between you and I get paid from the company based on volume and sales of the product. How we do it. Yeah, so that's how I say it. So I always just remind them, you're not paying me. I'm a consultant, and I get paid from the volume and sales of the products. And I will often say, depending on when we sit down and we talk, I'll sort of make an analysis. There's no minimum orders. There's no requirements, for us to work together. But I'll give an example too. I'll say, I work with a 5 location PT practice, physical therapy practice. They might take a little bit more of my time. I might be seeing them weekly, where if you and I establish that it's just going to be, one product or a small part of the service of what you offer, we might end up meeting monthly or every 6 weeks. We together will determine what's appropriate just based on the volume in this practice. That's just how I run my business. It's really worked for me in being really effective and efficient with my time. See a lot of consultants who are spending way too much time with the practices that aren't producing what they need to produce to justify that time. And we own our own business. You can't get time back. So we all set out, I think, with this division, with this company, to create more time, to create more leverage, so we can do what's important to us. I mean, yeah, helping the practices is important to us, but I think we would all agree family and that time is also really important to us. And so I want you guys to maximize and be really efficient with that time. Shop with style. What's the best strategy for screening for recruiting an NC? Looking to partner with someone who will build nutraMetrix with doctors' offices. What's the best strategy to recruit an NC? Just to be really clear about what it looks like, and I don't think it's much different than partnering with someone just in general as a part of Market America and shop.com. So you're going to want to show them the business plan. I usually will try to engage an ABC pattern as early as possible and tell them a lot about our trainings, and that's going to be really important to get them to one of our nutraMetrix consultants trainings. I'd rather have them do that than even open up their own account and their own business. That's going to give them the best information. They can sort of start to go through the process. There is a getting started guide for nutraMetrix consultants. So in that process of working with a new NC, I'll probably get them that guide, and we might start creating their possibility list. We're going to start the process. I don't think that sponsoring is really the main event. That's not the biggest deal for me. Rather see that they're working, that they're willing to do what it takes, and that we can create some ABC pattern. What amount of volume do you consider spending your most time? That's going to really be up to you, Susanna. I wish I could answer that, but you're going to have to figure out what's going to make it worth it for you, and make sure that they're hitting those goals, and that I've seen so many people meet with accounts 6 times and there's no orders placed and no patients going on to products. And so you might just have to say, hey, have a conversation with them and to say, listen, I get paid on the sales of volume. And so I really, really want to make this work and be effective for both of us. And so, why don't we just circle back in a couple weeks and just let them know, be really clear about that. I think honesty is always the best policy, as you guys know. And so being really clear about your expectations and monitoring those, so you can go back and say, like, as we talked about, we talked about that this was going to be the rollout. That's fine if that's not working for you right now. So I'm just going to put you on a different schedule of when we're going to meet together. That part is a delicate dance, a fine line. But I don't want you guys to waste your time with folks who are wasting your time. That is the worst part about this business. And Susanna, thank you for taking the extra time with me today. Continue to follow nutraMetrix here on Meet On, because we are broadcasting almost every day now. It's very exciting. In the Facebook group, we do have the whole calendar that's out there. We love to see the feedback from these specific events. And as always, we try to put up the recordings as well. So you'll see a lot more of us on there. So thank you guys, and I will talk to everyone soon.